The Flash. Worlds collide when Barry uses his superpowers to travel back in time to prevent his mother's murder and save his family. He creates a world without heroes, and General Zod has returned to defeat him. His only hope rests in the hands of a retired Batman, another Barry, and an imprisoned Kryptonian. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. There's been a lengthy period of time here where we haven't reviewed movies. Want to get back to a steady run of giving you guys reviews. So, the film that has been in production for, let's say, development and production for 9 years, The Flash. And I shall go through all the things I liked about this film and all the things I didn't like about it so much. But the very first thing that we will talk about with The Flash, with the positives, is that the core of this story is Barry's relationship with his family and especially his mum. And we know that with Andy Muschietti, he's got a really great dynamic and camaraderie amongst family and friends, and this you really get to see his family chops come out in this film, and it's poignant, it's profound, and the moments that Barry had with his mother in this were some of the best moments in the film and some of the best acting, I would say, to that grandeur. Let's talk about our leading man in this film, Ezra Miller. This take of his interpretation of Barry can kind of come as a pro and a con, which is, I don't think, always his doing, because I think there's some elements of writing when it comes to Barry that I feel is kind of lost in translation with him as a character. But I think, with Ezra Miller, he injects so much energy, enthusiasm into the character where, he's constantly bouncing from pillar to post, and he literally brings a vibrance to this character. And I think when we get onto the con side of it, I think I'll go in a little bit more detail about why he's in elements of the writing, why he's been given a little bit of a disservice. And really, based on his performance, it doesn't really matter how much he's actually effectively trying to give this portrayal. I feel like the writing is not the writing is not making Barry as a character feel solid in presence, and we'll get on to a little bit of that later. The comedy is good in this for the most part. More than often, I felt like the comedy landed. The comedy is in that aspect of it being out of left field and it being completely absurd. And one of the major standout moments of comedy in this film is when the two Barrys go to the forensic headquarters, and then after, they try to make a run for it, and that really did give me a really good belly laugh. That was one of the funny moments of the film that I really did enjoy. The chemistry between Barry and Iris was palpable, was really good, and I would really like to see the actress who plays Iris. I'd love to see her return, because I think she's good, and I think there's something there when you watch her performance. She's got something that reels you in, and yeah, I think she deserves more time in this universe if it's going to be granted to flourish, because I think there's something there, and I think there's something you can you can do with that actress because she is very good. The opening sequence with the Batmobile was cool. It was brilliant. Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton, whenever they show up on screen, they are maestros. They're really great actors, and they really do serve great justice to the character of Batman. And in particular, I was actually I was happy to see, rather, because I haven't seen, yes, I am that comic book noob that hasn't seen the original Michael Keaton Batman films. And don't you worry, I will watch them. And if you want me to, I will review them for you guys here on the channel. But evidently, it was clear to see that they gave Michael Keaton's character a level up in combat in this film. And it was really striking and really good. Sasha Calle, she was a surprise as well. I think she'd done a good job with what she was given. She kind of did imbue a little bit of Henry Cavill's performance as Superman. You know, that kind of stoic zen within her, but also the unpredictable nature of switching and messing people up. She portrayed that really well. And honestly, who knows if we're going to see her in the future, because at the moment with this DC thing, I ain't got a clue. But if they were to bring her back, I'd be more than happy to see what they would do with her. The elements of the last fight scene was good. But obviously, the choppy nature of the CGI taking you out of the film at certain moments is the overbearing thing that with the Flash that I feel lets it down. And we have Michael Shannon reprising his role as General Zod, and we also had we also had Antige coming back as Fiora, and they're not exactly, there's no like character arc for them. They're not really the main villain of the story. Thinking about it now, I think it would have probably done them a little bit more service if they actually gave those characters a little bit more of a set in stone role in the story. But yeah, they are a little bit like what they were in Man of Steel, and the circumstances that they're in now. Nothing really exactly changes or any of their character arc, so it's not, there wasn't anything particularly new, or they were just they were there to fill in that third act with action, to be honest with you. So as far as me give them some type of criteria of grading them is really hard to do so, because they were just kind of there for that, for the cannon fodder of the action. Right then, so people, onto the negatives of this film, and it and it is a long list, I must say. The CGI. People, I'm just going to say this, yeah. There is, honestly, for me, I don't think there is no excuse, I believe, really. I even generally feel in my heart, right, there is no excuse to make something under a 7 with millions of dollars going into a film. I just cannot see in any realm or possibility of that being something to be okay with, I think if you're in the millions bracket, I think it should be your sole mission to create a solid piece of art, or must-see piece of art. And with The Flash, it's got this gigantic budget of 300 million, right? And this is the thing that irks me, right? If you were telling me that it was the budget of £500,000, £500,000 or $500,000, right? And then you saw that CGI, you look at it and you go, yeah, I can see why it looks like that. You know, actually, I can let that slide. That can be an afterthought to me. But when I know the film has $300 million attached to it, and I look at that CGI, and I'm looking at babies that look like PS2 cutouts, yeah, you know, you can't but help but feel like, you know, you've been done a disservice, you know, and we can go back in time to, I mean, all right, films like The Winter Soldier, where they didn't, I know that the budget of that was far less than 300 million, I believe. Or even the early MCU films, or even to the time that we had Snyder's films, the CGI was never a problem, but now it's just ridiculous. So the opening sequence for that mishmash, and what's really sad about it is that you can see that Andy Muschietti is actually he's trying to be really creative in the way that he's directing, but the graphics and it takes you out the film. Because I was saying this to my friend, yeah. Anybody that remotely likes superhero films, I think there's always that part of us as a little kid where we think, I wish that we could do this in real life. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I wish I could fly. I wish I could climb a wall. You know, spider abilities and swing from skyscrapers, and you know, all of this fantastical nature that you wish you could pull off in real life. But when you see it portrayed in the film, and then the effects are not being done justice, it's like, well, you know, you're just watching a green screen. Do you know what I mean? You know, to the earlier days when we had the better CGI, that was the magic of it, I felt, you know. And I mean, there's one part when Barry goes to the hospital. He's trying to get all these medical appliances they're all sparking out of control, and the animation of him grabbing it is just, it looks like a PS3 cutscene. It's just like, what's going on here? Okay, so we're going to talk about Barry's performance now. Ezra Miller's performance. I'm getting the two mixed up now. Now, the thing that when we get to the point of meeting second Barry in the timeline, he comes across as obnoxious and completely aloof, and just has no like, he kind of acts like a psychopath, fair enough, and that's kind of eerily connected to Ezra's private life, I guess. But anyway, he's got no realm of consequences from acting, and you know, just to be, you know, realistic about what I'm seeing, from his performance, it feels like he's on the spectrum, like he does have ADHD, you know. For example, when you watch Ezra Miller's performance as Barry, he can have all the energy in the world and then just not be able to concentrate. Do you know what I mean? His mind kind of, it just jumps from one thing to the other, just so fluidly, you know. And you would actually think with a big tentpole company like Warner Brothers, they would have thought, even looking at Ezra Miller's performance, I would have thought after the success of the Snyder Cut, they would have thought maybe we can maybe in somehow we can, tell the audience, he has the neurodivergent condition of ADHD, and then you make it this kind of issue-based thing where, you can bring a whole new community to, to watch these films and learn from. If, let's say, they wanted to do that condition, it would bring awareness. And I think if they'd done that, it would make it a little bit more feasible when we just see this guy just being so out of left field all the time. Another part of writing that I felt was not taken advantage of, and that was, I don't feel they took advantage of how three-dimensional Barry Allen is as a character. And when I say that, we know that in the film that he's now, I believe, whether he's at college or working, I can't really remember. It's a 2.5 film. And I've only seen the film once, so if my memory's a little bit iffy, then just bear with me or let me know in the comment section. So he's either at college or he's working at a forensic headquarters, right? Another, besides the fact of Barry being this hero, saving people and, doing all the things that the Flash does with the costume on, I felt like it was a little bit of a missed opportunity when we didn't get to see how does his mind tick when it comes to forensic. I mean, like, how intelligent is he when it comes to that, because to me, that is a big bearing of who this Flash is, and whether that's a thing or not in the comics, I don't know. But this is literally a thing that makes Barry the way that he is, and also gives him that arc of that need of wanting to go back in time to save his mum and change that dire circumstance of what's going to end up happening to his dad. And just that, I mean, we get talks of it in exposition through the dialogue, about, how he's trying to render this CCT camera. And then it doesn't really feel like he's using his initiative, because then it's Bruce that's doing it for him. It goes back to that classic thing of how Spider-Man fans, for the longest time, when they watched Tom Holland's interpretation of Spider-Man, that younger Spider-Man, he had all of Tony Stark's AI equipment in his suit, just kind of telling him what to do. And then, as somebody like myself who grew up watching the Sam Raimi films, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, I'm looking at Tom Holland, I'm like, he ain't Spider-Man. He's not figuring this stuff out for himself, But little small, details like this, I feel like can have a real, bearing on the character to make them feel more flushed out. They got two things right. They got like his want, what does he want, and his flaws, right? But in terms of what he's good at and what is the extent of his intelligence, that's never explored. How good is he with forensics? We haven't got a clue. Especially with the Friends, I feel like they overcooked it with the comedy as well with them lot. Just especially when, I think it was just after Zod announces that he's coming to Earth and then they go back to the apartment. It was like, I felt like we got to a point in the film where we had good moments of comedy, but now we were overcooking it. And there I was like, oh, this is, okay. There's only so much comedy, and I love comedy, that it feels like now you've overstepped the mark. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, had there not been any comedic moments in that scene, it wouldn't have felt like he would, lost anything from the film. I think as a writer, the writers sometimes, and I get into this headspace as well, because you want to keep letting the audience understand what the tone of the story is. sometimes you're beating the horse over the head too much. And as a writer, you completely forget that on the day there's going to be a director there, and then there's going to be an actor that's going to be able to eloquently find the meaning behind your words and take their time with it. Yeah, I just felt like the writers just kind of went a bit too haywire with it. And then Barry getting his powers, second Barry in the alternate timeline, him getting his powers and just being a menace to society, I was like, this is what I mean. Like, there's so many things that are just not being cohesive, and it just feels contrived for no reason. And especially when, he gets his powers and he runs the city riot, it just felt like it was done for shock value. It was just like, just to get a cheap laugh. And I'm like, there's other parts of comedy that feel like there's a real build up to something, and there's others that's like, we're being too random now. And with that ending, with George Clooney, I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue what Warner Brothers are doing. And really, with The Flash, the whole production, it's all been an amalgamation of just a lot of pain, to be honest with you. This film going on for 9 years, being on and off delayed. The antics of Ezra Miller in his private life did not help this film at the box office whatsoever. Warner Brothers, their complete disregard and disrespect to the fan base, basically saying bollocks to 10 million fans. Why? I haven't got a clue. They think they've got a better vision. But as it stands now, you keep on, there will be no DC films soon if you keep this track record going. It's kind of ridiculous now. It's got to a point where it's quite comical. And yeah, just and to be honest with you, like, with the amount of things that have just been, from the fans not being given the one, and then Warner Brothers doing what they've done to Henry Cavill, it's hard to look at the Flash as this. It's hard. It's hard to. It starts from the board to everything else, and it just leaves that sour taste in your mouth. When you know that you could have had the original Trinity, you could have had them there, but you let the dirty politics get involved, and who gets paid this much money. I just honestly, no, Warner Brothers and how they're managing their business is like no different to me with heavyweight boxing. No difference. Just repeated failure to give the fans what they want. And I will score The Flash a 5.5 out of 10. I will give it that. I can see why this film can be a guilty pleasure for a lot of people, but so many things, just a muddle of things. And yeah, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.